Hi, my name is Mike Raden. I'm a senior sales engineer at Cavallo. In this video, I'm going to be talking about workflow for GP. Workflow is a powerful tool that we offer in our SalesPad desktop application that allows users to configure different queues or batches to support their different business processes. We typically focus on the sales document, but within SalesPad, we can support other business objects such as customer, item, prospects, equipment. But for today's focus in Workflow for GP, we're going to talk about supporting our sales document workflow, which is the functionality that we've made available to our users on GP. So let me go ahead and dive in and show you what that looks like. Within GP, if you navigate to the sales transaction entry screen, when that window opens up, there's going to be a bolted on window that has two different tabs, Sales Document Search and Sales Monitor. Sales Document Search is a very helpful tool. Think of yourself as a customer service representative on the phone with a customer, and maybe you want to pull up an order to be able to give details on that order. If I start typing in that order number, hit enter, I'm going to get all of the matching results. So potentially the customer was calling and asking about order number 22, and they wanted to know what status that was in or when they could expect it. I can see very quickly from this view that that's in the shipping queue. I can double click on that order, pull it into my sales transaction entry window, and get further details for that order. Once I have all of these orders pulled up too, I can do further filtering with the use of the auto filter row to find a very specific order. I could look for all items in a specific batch, making it very easy to pull up details for an order. Now the second tab is Sales Monitor. And this is really the backbone of our workflow engine and having that view into all the orders in your business. I'm going to go ahead and make this view full screen. On the left-hand side, you can see my e-ord order sales document type. These are e-commerce orders in my system. I have 9 different queues that support this business process. So typically my orders will start in the new order queue once that order is imported from our e-commerce site. And they'll go through different checks to make sure that that order is clean and ready to go out the door. So we'll evaluate to see if there's a back-ordered item on that report, or on that order rather. See if there's any kind of holds, whether that be a credit hold, a customer hold, or any other holds that we have built into our process. And then finally, if everything on the order looks good, we'll go through our pick, pack, ship, and invoice process. Now, with workflow, there are different rules and checks you can do. I mentioned some already. Credit limits, make sure that the margin on the order is acceptable. You might want to do some automations like splitting a document perhaps, or printing out documents or emailing them to your customers or internal teams. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Sales Monitor. At any given time, I know exactly where an order is. I can see what the total is on that order. I can see the sales rep it's assigned to and other details. The status column, I can see different details about that order. I can really get down to any level of information I want to on this order from this screen. This view is totally configurable. You can drag and move columns around. You can add additional columns. You'll notice all of these different columns pertaining to the sales document, and you can even use user-defined fields, which is another module that SalesPad Cavallo offer. You can add virtually unlimited amount, whereas in GP you do have a set number you can make, which these user-defined fields that you do create will only be available in the SalesPad desktop application, and then within this view for workflow and the Sales Monitor and the Sales Document Search. But I can bring in a field very easily, see if there's a rush delivery on any of these orders, and to remove it, it's just as easy, drag and drop it out, and it'll remove it from the view, and then you can reselect it from this view. Once you have an order highlighted, you have 2 different options to process this through your configured workflow. You can choose to manually send this directly to a batch, but that won't follow any of the rules or automations that you've built in your workflow necessarily, so you might not want to do that, but for quick moves, you're absolutely able to do that. Forward is actually going to move it through to the next logical step in my workflow and run it through any checks, rules, or automations that I've set up. So I'm going to go ahead and forward this order. Going to think for just a moment, then let me know that it was forwarded successfully. Now I can see that this order ended up in my holding queue. Now we might want to go do some digging to find out why that is. So let me first select that order, and I'm going to minimize. If I come and look at this order, everything looks good here. Let me go and take a look at that customer, see if there's any kinds. And see, I can see there is a hold on that customer. So that's the reason that this document was moved directly to that holding queue. We want someone to take a look at this, approve, work on getting that hold off the customer. You'll notice that there's a customer search on the customer window as well. Works very much like the sales document search where I can search for a customer by name and get a full list here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the hold so we can go about processing our order. I can now close out of that view, go back to my sales monitor. And now I'm going to go ahead and try forwarding order number 76 here. Got a message that that was done successfully. And you'll notice this pick ticket popped up. I have this set up to do a preview, but you can have this sent to any printer in your network. So you could have this sent down directly to the warehouse so that your picking team can get to going and processing the picking of that order. These reports are configurable within the SalesPad desktop application, so during your configuration or implementation, you'd be able to customize the way this report looks, move around the columns, change the wording, even add logos. So that's just another thing that's totally configurable within SalesPad. So now that it's down, sent down to the warehouse and in my picking queue, I'm going to go ahead and imagine that this document has been picked, so I can go ahead and forward once again, and that's going to move it to my packing queue. Here I can add details about what kind of packaging I use, add things like weight, shipping details. And again, I'm going to assume that we've gone ahead and done that. So I'm going to go ahead and forward it. And now it is in my shipping queue. Here's where you'd be able to add any of that detail like tracking information. If you're working with an integrated or a third-party tool, be able to bring that back into GP so that you can then eventually send that information along to the customer. Now that we've packaged this, thrown a label on it, sent it out the door, it has been successfully shipped, I'm going to go ahead and forward this document, which is going to move it to my Ready to Invoice queue. From my Ready to Invoice queue, this is where I can go ahead and transfer to an invoice. And we do have an automation tool that can be purchased separately from Workflow for GP that can actually do a lot of these actions in an automated way, transferring to invoice. So as soon as a document makes it into this queue, we can set up a time interval to check and actually transfer those to the invoice and a ready to post batch if you so choose. You can also do other things like automatically check for different fields to be populated or date criteria to be met. We do have several other videos that show some of the functionality of Automation Agent if you'd like to check those out. But now that's been through my shipping process, I actually triggered another smart printing job that sent an email to my customer, in this case that customer being me, thanking me for the order, giving the order number, and then actually linking in that tracking number so you can embed that link in there so that your customers can go in there, click, get that information. And then I've also attached a copy of the invoice here so that the customer can view that. This is another configurable report within SalesPad. You can change the look and feel of this, but it will give all of that detail pertaining to the item you sold your customer. In this case, it's a serialized item, so that number is included there as well.